Hey guys, welcome to the Fuck Around and Find Out podcast. Today we're going to be talking about an apocalyptic type scenario for mycology and setting up some sort of trade and barter system. So basically the scenario is that China has called the dime on American debt and your dollar's not worth anything anymore. You get no more imports from overseas. What you have is what you've got. There's mass riotings, looting, the whole nine yards. There will be no more resupplies. You can't buy anything from Walmart because your dollar's not worth anything either. It's going to be cheaper to burn it for fuel than to try to buy firewood with it. So, that quickly setting up our scenario. If you don't have it, you are not going to be able to get it. So just look around what you've got and figure it out. In this scenario, us and our friends all live together on our little farm, which we're going to call, I don't know, Farm-tastic,
Bartertown.
Bartertown. Yes, Bartertown. Yeah.
Fayetteville, guys. Fayetteville, come on.
Yeah, Faithfulville. There we go. I like it. Faithfulville. So we're going to live on Apocalypse Faithfulville Farm, and that's it. And that's not too far off from our kind of personal thing, as we're all kind of trying to get together and build a little community. So let's start off with this. You have only this stuff around you, and you want to set up barter. What are some good barter stuff? I mean, food, medicine, and something everybody has always wanted to take a break from reality, right? Throughout history, it's always been something like alcohol, drugs, salt, and so forth. One thing we've got in spades in this podcast is mycology and mycology knowledge. So, our neighbor down the way is making shitty beer, and we are going to make all the mycology-related things. Let's go. Let's start from, we've got some swabs in storage, or a print in storage we found in the back of Grandpa's old Bible or something, and we're going to go ahead and start making our mycology. All right, go.
All right, so, first thing you have to do is we're going to need to go ahead and have a sterile environment, right?
Or clean.
As sterile as possible,
a cleaner environment. So, probably not going to have gas or whatever for, like, the ovens. We'll be able
It'll probably work for a few months, but nobody has any incentive to go to work. So if something's broken, there's no parts coming from China, right? So your natural gas is going to only work as long as the pumps actually operate.
Right.
You can use it. You can use like a bonfire. I mean, anything that has the heat coming off there, if you had a metal box basically on top of a fire, the heat that would come billowing out of there, I think it's heat stratification. It actually would push all the contaminants up and away from the opening of that box. And you can just work right there on a grate. I mean, basically.
So explain how, I don't think people really understand how oven tech works. We get people who think that oven tech is just baking everything in an oven and hoping it's sterile, like the old-fashioned wax sealing canning type stuff. But oven tech is actually like a flow hood, right?
Yeah, I mean it's an old school flow hood. I mean, I hate to say the word shroomery, but back to 20 years ago, that was a thing. You basically just turn the oven on. I blare. If I were to do it, I would blare the heat all the way up. You let the heat up, and you set up a rack and shelves on both sides of the oven. So on the left side, you have all the work that you're going to do. On the right side, that's where all the completed work is going to go when you're done. All right. So when the oven comes to temp, by the time that happens, you're all set up. You've ISO'd everything, from your ass to your hands. You open that oven, and you sit there in front of there. You put down a grate, or I've seen people put down baking sheets, cookie sheets, upside down. Yeah. All right, and you just
basically be in that heat that's billowing. You basically just want to be in that heat that's billowing out of the oven, right? Because when you open the oven, you can feel that heat rising.
Correct. And as long as you take and you have stations, you've got the pre and then the working and then the completed. As long as you have a rotation going, you're trying to stay clean, but you stay in front of that heated oven the whole time that you have anything open. Most important part is whenever anything's open to the environment, you want it in front of that oven because the heat's going to just basically blow everything away. Same thing with the candle. You can have a candle down. If you work around the candle, that will keep all the particles away from it.
Like the old school Bunsen burner tech.
Yeah, you can go ahead and do that. I mean, you get a good foot and a half from the fire, from either a candle or a Bunsen burner to be able to work as long as you're underneath the fire.
Yeah, those work really good.
Yeah, that would give you a good environment, and it would help you save whatever you had when the shit hit the fan. Really,
All right, so what are we using for agar? I mean, let's just say we do have some pre-poured, or
I say this is a normal person when the shit hits a fan, or is it one of us? Because
it's one of us. I mean, come on,
I know that I'm
listening
for
to our
about 17
podcast.
years.
No, it's one of us. Let's say, because your average Joe is not gonna there's no internet really, so he's not gonna go and search on how to grow freaking magic mushrooms. So it's got to be somebody that already kind of has an idea and knows what they're doing, right?
Right.
So it's got to be one of us or one of our listeners.
Right. As far as agar, the first thing on my list would be to raid every store I could, get all the unflavored gelatin, all the Chinese markets, agar.
Yeah, but you've got everybody else trying to do that. I mean, at least we're going for weird shit, right?
Right.
We're not going for baby formula.
Right, it'd be less likely to be taken.
In the Chinese section of the food stores, agar actually comes in noodle form. You'll be able to grab some agar noodles and you'll be able to do that, or even potato dextrose, and
I think it comes in blocks also, doesn't it? The agar.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're talking about a sheet.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's verified a rating mission for agar.
Yeah, but in a pinch, unflavored gelatin will work. It's just some mycelium will turn it back into liquid as it grows, but it'll get you by.
So we're basically going to go, okay, guys, listen, we don't want the diapers. We just want our drug supplies.
Well, with the drug supplies, you get all the diapers you want.
Yes, and we'll get there. I mean, it's apocalypse. It's ass, gas, or grass, right? But
nobody rides for free.
You just gave me an idea for an experiment.
Oh, okay.
I'm thinking the gel out of diapers and see if a guy can turn it into agar.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Hey, there you go.
As long as you add nutrients to it, I think it would work. I mean, it's just that it's just a hydroscopic gel, right? So it's just yeah. So I mean, as long as you add, I think it probably would.
It probably has some kind of antifungal things in there. Only because
I doubt
of
it.
diaper.
Babies get infections all the time. I think it can't have anything in there besides maybe some boric acid, right? Just to lower the pH of it. But I don't think it can have anything in there because who knows what your little crotch fruit's allergic to.
And that's the basic premise to most survival situations is look at what you have around you and try and figure out alternate uses for everything.
So let's just assume we're doing diaper tech. All right, we just invented this shit right fucking now. And so you got a hold of some Pampers, the overnight ones, so they have a big gel pack in them. You rip that shit open, you dump it out. Because it melts. Like I've seen that stuff melt in hot water. So you melt it down in hot water, you add your nutrients to it, you pour yourself some Diaper Tech agar dishes, but you could use any type of jar, any type of container. Shit, old filled containers. Everybody wants something clear so they can see, but you use what you got, right?
Yeah, that's a perfect word. Yep.
So we got our agar down. Now we're going to transfer our spores onto our agar. Are we going to use some apocalyptic still air box? Or are we going to do an oven tech and risk singeing our spores?
I mean, I definitely think we could do a apocalyptic still air box. That would probably be a good idea, right?
Yeah. So how are you going to build that, buddy?
All right. So, I'm going to segue off while we're doing our our diaper tech raid and agar raid, and I'm going to go to the hospital, and I'm going to grab. I'm going to try to find, actually a glove box would be nice in there. I could just tear the gloves off and work out of that. But if I can't, we would get like a baby incubator, right?
Yeah.
One missing baby.
Just screw the babies. That just yeet them out.
Just one without the baby in it, right? Because everyone's screaming and doing all sorts of crazy stuff, right?
I heard you're delicious.
I mean, let's be honest. If the fall of the government happens, I mean, at least half the people are going to kill themselves being idiots, right? I mean, let's be honest, right? So
the baby incubator. Have you ever seen those things? I've had to move them in my job. Those damn things are like 300 pounds, bro. They're really, really heavy.
Okay.
I mean, there are still totes around.
Yeah, I mean, there's still totes.
We'll get clever, and just to be creative here, I'll say that there are no clear totes in our general vicinity in Fayetteville. So
what about Harbor Freight? How about Harbor Freight? Harbor Freight has those sandblasting boxes, right?
Ooh, that would be rather clever. So we got. But aren't those like 300 pounds too?
When they're full of sand. They come in like a pretty small box. Like you have to assemble them.
So real quick, also, do we have electricity currently?
Yes, for as long as that's going to last. If we don't, because it's my apocalypse bunker, and I actually do have like 7 or 8 different ways to generate electricity, we're good. As long as we don't try to use an electric oven or something like that. Like we have basic electricity. We can run things except for super high drain items. So we can't run like an electric oven and 4 freezers at the same time. But we can run like the freezers and the air conditioner or electric oven by itself. But we do have wood ovens, wood fireplaces, and natural gas, as well as a very large propane, a 20,000 gallon propane tank. So the big ones.
Okay. All right. So we're going to go and we're going to grab this Harbor Freight sandbox. Blasting box, right? Sanding box, right? So we're going to grab that. And then we're going to, on the way out, grab some LED button lights, the ones you can push button with them.
And those work good.
And if we can possibly find anything of any value, so we could trade the alcohol maker and go get us some Everclear or some moonshine, some white lightning from them, we're going to grab that too. So that way that covers our isopropyl, right? Or equivalent to. And we have some lights to illuminate our still air box that we're making out of this.
You think we could get away with using an acid or a really base instead of alcohol? Like something that's super basic or something that's super acidic to sterilize
anything
with?
On the far end of the spectrum is going to kill it.
All right, because we could make an almost unlimited amount of lye water or a lime water just from wood ashes and filtering it through straw. So it's really, really easy to make lye water.
Wow, right.
And you could also use the straw afterwards to grow gourmets.
Oh, hey, that's a really good point. Or because your straw's sterile at that point, right?
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
It's actually a tech for that. So.
That's good.
In the bathtub, the lye tech.
Yeah, I've done that. It's a fucking mess.
Well, it's not a perfect world in this situation.
1 out of 10.
At least
Big
your tub will be
flushes,
clean.
huge mess. But all right, so we're gonna make our lye water to go ahead and do everything. And how we're gonna do that is we're gonna take about 6 inches of straw, put it in the bottom of a barrel, throw all of our ashes in on top of it, and then run rainwater, so hard water, through that, catch out the water that comes out of the bottom, evaporate it off until it floats an egg larger than a quarter above the water, fresh egg, larger than a quarter above the water. And that's how you know that your lye is strong enough to make soap with or use for sterilization. So now we have spray bottles full of our lye water, and we're using that to sterilize everything. Except you don't want to sterilize yourself with it. You don't want to spray it on your hands.
That might hurt.
Yeah,
that'll take
nice
a layer
exfoliation.
of skin.
Yep.
Yeah. But anything it goes on is going to die, because it's going to break the lipids down on the outside of it. So most of your bacteria, fungi, stuff like that works as an encapsulated little dude, it's going to saponify, is the $10 word of the day, the fats on the outside of any sort of bacteria or anything else, and cause it to pop, and that's how it sterilizes. So we've got our still air box. We've sterilized shit. Go.
Now we just shining. Okay.
What? Huh?
What are we gonna? What are we doing with our still air box now that we have one?
Yeah, and it's clean.
Okay, so it's clean. We're sterilized. So we're gonna. What are we using for petri dishes? Did we talk about this?
Any kind of jar, any kind of glass jar we can clean with that lye.
Okay. Yeah, we got some random.
Bottom half of a Budweiser bottle.
Shit, yeah, we can do that with a condom over the top, and it fucking work.
Perfect. Mint.
The Budweiser Rocket condom bottle, Tech.
All right, so and then we're gonna take. So we had one print. Was that what was said?
Yeah.
Okay, and we do have a heat source. We talked about with the oven tech. We are able to use that oven tech to sterilize things, correct? So, like for instance,
not sterilize, more like pasteurize.
Yeah.
Pasteurize. Okay, so could we make some LC? Could we do some LC inoculation too? Do we have bees on our property?
Of course, my wife actually keeps bees.
Yeah. So we're gonna go grab some honey. We're gonna sterilize or heavily pasteurize for a long period of time, to the point to where maybe we could sterilize it in the oven.
We have pressure cookers.
I was going to say, since it's us, we should be able to put a pressure cooker on the stove.
Yeah, I've got like
we're
10
above
of them.
a fucking fire.
Yeah, we're good. We got pressure cookers,
okay,
so we can make our sterile LC. Yeah.
So we make some batches of LC. We get our diaper agar sterilized, ready to go. And we're gonna go pour some agar jars, some diaper agar jars. Holy shit!
Best agar.
As a side note, I am really gonna try this just to see if it works or not.
Oh my god!
Dude, totally, this shit's happening. I've got diapers in the other room. I have a toddler. This shit's happening.
Well, there you go. There you go.
It's happening tonight.
Holy shit!
It's the pen stack.
So we're gonna go ahead. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take our print, and we are going to tools. I guess we would have tools, right? We would have our regular tools, something like a scalpel or a
because
knife.
We don't have tools. You're going to go out there and you're going to fucking flint nap us the goddamn scalpel like a fucking Aztec. Okay.
I'm not gonna lie. I have no experience with that. The tools might be pretty janky. I'm not gonna lie.
You're gonna go flint nap, use an elk horn, and fucking flint nap us some goddamn. But first, you got to kill the elk. All right, we're going full fucking frontal on this shit.
We're doing fucking native on this shit.
I'm gonna be taking transfers with a machete.
Yes.
Very easy.
I'll be using my butter knife that I got out the kitchen drawer. But we're gonna hey, you know what? We're gonna get even super technical about this. We're gonna scrape some of that spore print into a sterilized jar, a sterilized baby food jar of water, and we're gonna attempt some serial dilution in this sandblasting still air box. Shit, do we have pipe? Yeah, we're gonna grab the turkey baster and make sure that's is the lye gonna eat the rubber bulb on the turkey baster? I'm not super.
It shouldn't. No.
Nah, leave it alone.
Okay, so we're gonna use lye, sterilize the turkey baster, and we're gonna go ahead and do some serial dilutions of this spore print we put into our sterilized water.
It sounds like it's getting a little fancy. I'm just gonna take and rub get some spore print on some diaper agar, the depends agar tag, and because I'm just trying to get fruit. I'm not trying to like cross it with anything. We have one spore print. We can go pheno hunting later.
Once
Okay.
you get that one going, then we have an unlimited amount after that.
True.
Yeah.
So all right, we're scraping some spores onto some agar, and let's do. We're in a temperate climate? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about incubation or nothing. Okay, yeah.
No, we're in Texas. This is America.
Merc.
So
I had a long freaking walk to get there, boys. You better have some shrooms ready when I get there.
Not as long as mine.
Unless you're Deadpool, eh? He's up there on the border, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're in basically southern Canada.
So,
But
anyway,
if the shit hits the fan, I'm packing my shit and heading south. Just so you know.
Hell yeah, don't worry about it. We got this apocalypse bunker.
so we're gonna get some spores germinating in our Gerber baby jars of diaper agar, and we're gonna get them growing out really good. And we're gonna take our butter knife, go ahead and cut ourselves a couple of transfers off, so we can share with the neighbors, right? Or wait, no, they're not. They're not
Oh,
skilled.
fuck them.
Fuck yeah.
Fuck the neighbors.
We're trying to get booze and shit. And
We're
all
not
that
trying.
from the
No,
neighbors.
we don't share. We don't share. You don't share source
We were
material.
bartering. You said
No,
barter.
no.
We were going to get
No.
Only
The
fuck
fruit, only the fruit. They get the
Don't
fruit,
leave that
they don't get the
dry-
agar.
Yeah.
You keep the seed. You give them the apple.
You got to keep it
exactly.
exclusive. I get it.
You keep
I
the
get it.
seed. You give them the apple. That's fucking beautiful. Keep that.
That's going on a T-shirt.
I mean,
All right.
That's just general dating, right? Just
Yeah.
that's what condoms are for.
Condoms are for people who don't want to have kids.
Man, where's the goat noise? Where's the goat noise?
Yeah, I just did it, but I forgot I muted it.
the off-topic goat bleat.
Dude, when you posted that picture of the goat guy, that shit, I'm not lying to you, had me crying. I was laughing so fucking hard. That was hilarious.
I'll put the goat bleat. I'll put the goat bleat guy as the picture for this episode.
Nice.
Just,
Excellent.
yeah,
Excellent.
They're the first ones to die, anyways.
exactly. Okay.
But
So,
scenario-wise, we went ahead and we put a bunch of spores onto some glass jars of diaper agar, and only about 1/3 of them actually germinated without contaminating the whole fucking thing.
Wait a second. We're not playing Dungeons and Dragons.
the diaper jar has 10 HP. Roll.
I need you to roll.
I was going to mention that in this situation, you're going to want to make twice as much of everything that you think you're going to need. Just for situations like that.
At least twice as much. It's going to be accuracy by volume.
Yep. Shotgun method.
Yeah. All right.
So,
So
we're ready for some somewhere to put the colonized agar plates.
I'm thinking that the best way to do that would be LC, liquid culture, right? So we can use honey for it. We can use grain water for it, like if we're rinsing out our rice and stuff like that. But we're not going to be able to actually use the grain for spawn. We have more important things to do with that, like turning it into chicken eggs, turning it into human food, turning it into anything else, right? Then wasting a shitload of grain on making mushrooms. Unless we've worked out a trade with Farmer Joe and we just have a ton of stuff left over. There's way more important things to do with grain, as grain's only a once a year thing or a twice a year thing, right?
Right.
Like,
We definitely need to go ahead and make sure we allot some.
It's going to be a very valuable commodity in that kind of situation because they're not going to have tractors to farm it anymore either.
Yeah. So I'm thinking like a liquid culture is going to be the best way to go. And we can make a shitload of liquid culture for very, very easy and very, very cheap as far as calorie-wise goes. Because it's just a few percentages of sugar, right?
3%.
Yeah, so it's not taking your entire year's worth of honey harvest. It's taking a spoonful of honey out of a gallon, you know?
Yep.
So you've got, spoonful of sugar. But so we've got our liquid culture. Liquid culture is rapidly expanding, and now we need to put it on something, but we're not going to be able to do grain. And that's where like a nutritional type substrate comes in. We've got our animals on our little farm. We have our goats, as has already been demonstrated by their screaming. We have our chickens, and then we have everything else that might be living in the area. We live in a very rural area, so we have wild critters. We also keep meat rabbits because meat rabbits are extremely efficient animals. They breed like rabbits, and they make amazing fertilizer, as well as furs that we can use for our super sexy loincloths. And meat. So I guess we could probably use, rabbit pellets. They dry really hard. And if you've ever seen rabbit pellets just left alone for even just a little while, those little bitches mold like a mofo. Right?
Yeah. I would agree with that, yes.
Yeah, and they're like, I think, aren't they like a 4-4-4 fertilizer, something like a pretty rounded, but won't burn plants, right?
So no, I think you put as much of that shit as you want in your garden. It won't do anything because it'll
it doesn't burn any plants. Yeah, it doesn't burn.
Plants. I mean, I know I do. I did it last year. It didn't burn any of my plants in my garden.
Yeah, so let's say that we're gonna add we're gonna go to the backyard and we're just gonna take some scissors or your children or something like that and have them chop up a bunch of the tall grass, anything that your animals won't eat. So like the actual stems of the grass, that's basically wild straw or wild hay. We're going to go and we're going to chop that up. We're going to mix it with our rabbit poo. You might even end up having to pee on it a little bit, let it compost down a little bit.
I got that.
Yeah, no problem. We're men. We can directionally pee as much as we want. And so we're going to take that now after it's composted a little bit, and we're going to make our substrate out of it. So we've got just leaves, tiny sticks, twigs, animal waste. You can even use deer poo, that kind of stuff.
As long as they don't eat meat.
Yeah, any ruminant animal eats vegetables. Yep.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to use like cat or dog, especially dog poo, because dogs have lived with humans for so long, they can get the same diseases that we get, including the flu, right? So it's something we definitely want to stay away from. And we've now taken our substrate, we have packed it into any sort of container we can find. There's a lot of, let's say we don't have bags, right? So we're going to have to actually just pasteurize this. Burning I have a bunch of metal 55-gallon drums. It probably wouldn't be too hard to put one of those on a fire, build up around it, bring 20 gallons of water to a boil, and then dump in a bunch of substrate, just boil the shit out of it, right?
Yeah.
And then strain it. I would use like I have these big, basically they're strainer buckets that are made for making Asian food, like in bulk. They're on a big stick.
The big fly things. They're like
they look like fly things, but these are quite large. We use them to like.
You mean the spiders?
No, they're actually designed for Asians. They cover their food with them when they're outside. They're a giant strainer looking thing.
Yeah, we talked about that a couple weeks ago, I thought. On the Discord.
We were, but I don't think we talked about that in chat. So or inside of our last podcast. So I'm straining out this substrate, but I'm just going to put it on that 1/8 inch hardwire mesh, and maybe in the bottom of a cooler, so that it can strain out a little bit of the liquid over time, but stay hot. Then I'm going to take my substrate and probably just honestly fruit it in that cooler that I put it in. It might have a little standoff on the bottom where there's some water underneath it, but it's going to have that hardwire mesh between it and the water. You could probably use jar lids, rocks, even that kind of stuff. But it should be pasteurized, if not sterile, inside of there.
Yeah, because
right?
we're not going to be able to do what we normally do.
Yeah.
I think whatever we actually cook it in, pasteurize it in, should probably be the fruiting chamber itself.
That's what I'm thinking. And that's why I was like,
anytime you move it or touch it, you're just making more vectors to fuck it up.
That's why you could have that layer of water in the bottom, just because it's clean water. It came, it's hot as hell. It was boiled for however many hours, and it's in the bottom of your container. So It's just bringing the relative humidity in that container up. So we got our substrate. We're going to just pour, I guess, because there's a way for the excess liquid to get out is by filtering through the substrate into the bottom, and just pour some liquid culture on top of it, close the fucking lid, and pray.
I think that'll work.
There's a really, really, really good chance you're going to get some fruit. Do you remember the what the bucket we did? And we just literally took a bunch of random agar dishes, unpasteurized, just substrate directly from the freaking bag. I just had a bag of compost that I bought from the store. I just took a handful of compost, bunch of dishes I wanted to get rid of, handful of compost, bunch of dishes I want to get rid of, and just stacked that up in there, tied it up in a garbage bag, and left it outside. And it fruited like a mofo.
What do we get out of it? We got the bucket. We got feral tits.
Dude. Some amazing phenos we got out of there. Tits is amazing. We've talked about it before. Extremely aggressive. Great, huge, golden teacher kind of looking fruits with a little nipple on top, and super potent. So we're going to go kind of along that same way. You could probably even use garbage bags and just fill them full of substrate, tie the top, and set them out just under a table. It seems as something magical happens with the outdoors and the temperature fluctuations and the amount of fresh air that they get.
You mean nature?
Yeah. There's something magical that happens in nature that prohibits or reduces the amount of contamination.
Only the strong would survive in nature, so only the best genetics are actually going to provide fruit.
But I've never had trick in a container that was outside, right? That had the temperature fluctuations and the amount of fresh air that comes from outside. And I don't know if that's just because it doesn't like air movement. Maybe.
I'm trying to think about a lot of things. Trick on anything outside.
A lot of things in the natural world are a mystery still.
That's messed up. I don't think I've ever seen trick outside.
Yeah, exactly. I've never seen trick outside. I've seen all sorts of crazy shit outside. I've had various contaminants outside, but my most common contaminant that I've had outside is that inky cap mushroom.
Right.
Oh yeah.
That's
those are cool.
Those are we're about to get a goat bleat, but non-gourmet mushroom. Yeah, they're amazing. So one thing the inky cap mushroom does is it makes you temporarily allergic to alcohol.
I remember you said talking about that.
Like violently allergic to alcohol.
Contact me if you need any spores. I have some for those.
They grow. If you get hay wet and add nitrogen to it, like human urine or something, and it's outside in the southern United States, it's going to grow inky cap. But man,
they are
I
edible,
take that stuff and go. Oh, they're great. Yeah, as long as you don't. They're perfectly fine as long as you don't have alcohol in your system. That means the day before, the day of, or the day after, right? Anytime you have any sort of ethanol in your system, it makes you violently ill. Puke your guts out, see your toenails come out your freaking nose, just immediately violently ill. It is my favorite mushroom to dry and add to the coffee pot at AA meetings. And it's like, you're lying. Theoretically, totally theoretically. It's not something I would ever do. I mean, yeah. Anyway,
Is it really
so
assault?
Let's not discuss the legalities of anything on this show, okay? I think we're a little bit past that.
Yeah.
Right.
We exist in the gray area. But yeah, so outside the only
Trim. See, we're here with you, buddy.
Ever had was
what's that, my man?
And gourmets. Yeah.
All right, so you guys got some fruit then?
If you're growing gourmets, they will infect everything next to them. So, like, you can't grow your magics outside, your actives outside, and have like next to them lion's mane or
Oysters.
Especially pink oyster next to them outside, because it will just infect the living shit out of your active grow. They're super pathogenic. They'll affect everything.
You know what? Actually, that brings up a question. We had a question in the Discord where someone actually asked if we can grow, if they can grow their fruit by marijuana in the same room. I remember you having an issue one time with your citrus plants.
Yeah. So Trick Love is great for plants. It's great for plants. It's one of the mycorrhizae that helps the nitrogen fixation, and it helps with breaking down nutrients, and plants really, 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 really love it. But it is not good for growing any sort of mushrooms.
Yeah, it is best.
Although I would love
not to mix them if you can help it.
Don't they add Trick cultures to certain potting soils for
yes they do, and some core
and fertilizers? Certain organic fertilizers have it.
I know they send it in a little packet with when you plant peas and stuff like that. The little packet you're supposed to mix up in water and then pour over your seeds.
Mm-hmm.
But that's Trick.
Yep. Up here in farm country, they actually spray Trick out of airplanes onto the fields.
Oh, they do that. They do that here, not far from us.
No wonder you're always growing green, Trim.
Yep.
He's like this right underneath the goddamn runway.
Just about.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
So we have our fruits. Who is handling the drying of the fruit?
Well, that's where I came in. I finally finished my 4,000-mile walk, and I got to your house just as you got me some. You got some fruits ready.
I have some cold beer ready for you, too.
So the first thing I'm going to do is assess our situation. I want to see what the weather's like. If the weather's colder and we're heating inside with a wood stove, I'm just going to throw the fruits in a cardboard box with a couple of holes in it on a shelf near the oven. Not directly in the heat, but near it, and just let them air dry. If it's hotter out, I got a couple choices there. I can either build a cheap solar oven using some windows out of an old building and a wooden box with a metal cover just underneath the windows so they're not getting direct light on the mushrooms. That's another option. And in the summer, you can pull the cover off and use that as a solar oven.
Or solar dehydrator.
Yeah, a solar oven, solar dehydrator. The dehydrator, the only difference between it is you have underneath your light source for your windows, you're going to have a metal plate to keep the light off the actual food. So it's just going to heat it up without actually getting light on it.
Nice.
But if we're really in a hurry and we're basic as we need to be, I'm just going to get that same cardboard box with a few holes in it, and I'm just going to fill it with fruit and throw it inside of a car and shut the door.
Oh, yeah, there'll probably be plenty of cars just sitting around. A car? That's genius, man. Like, that's really good idea, because a car is basically just a really shitty freaking greenhouse just sitting there.
I was going to say, tear that whole, everything on the inside of that car out. Basically, you have little fucking tents all over the place.
Yep, you have a nice hot spot.
That's a great idea. You can control the airflow by rolling up and down the fucking windows.
Right?
Yeah.
Damn it, Trim.
I'm sorry, I'm a genius. I can't help it.
That's fucking good shit. I like it. That's happening.
Nice.
That'd be one hell of a novelty grow.
Yeah. I mean,
pickup truck. You can make one of those straw beds in the back. The big outside beds.
Oh yeah, no, huge freaking bed just in the floorboard if you take out all the everything.
Yeah.
But you'd
Yeah.
only be good. It'd only be good in Texas for like in the fall, the winter. Like right now, it'd be great. But yeah, it gets a little warm down here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it would be good as an early season seed starting place too.
Oh, we'd be able to do with the. That's I really like that idea. We'd be able to do grow year round then, like without a
Mhm.
problem. Because we could just heat. We could even heat the damn car with just like rocks we took from the fire and just open the freaking window or door or whatever and just set them in there and they'll just
Or
give off
buckets
heat.
of water, and you throw the
Yeah.
rocks in the water that would evaporate the water and turn into a humid mess.
Yeah,
Oh,
or
beautiful.
a roll of toilet paper in a quart paint can and fill it full of ethanol and light that on fire. You gotta.
Don't you
candle.
burn the toilet paper, dude. That's just worth some money. You're not doing the toilet paper torch because I ain't going to make toilet paper. It's a bitch to make.
That's what the poison ivy leaves are for.
Anything's toilet paper if you're brave enough.
All mushrooms are edible once.
All right, so what are we doing? How are we going to be able to market this to your regular, everyday apocalypse survivor?
Ooh,
That's the problem. So we now have our fruit. We have our dried fruit.
Sick
And
of
we're-
reality? What a break.
Yeah, but
Are we as a group still?
yeah, well, I mean, you didn't divorce us. You're fucking married to us, right?
Okay, well, my thought is we go as a group to do our marketing. Most guys hang back. One guy does the trading. And if things go
Yeah.
south, you got protection.
What kind of stuff are we wanting to trade for it? I mean, it's
Isn't there
obviously
that
not.
guy with the mead down the way we were talking about earlier?
Yeah. I guess we could just try to trade up.
Well,
Right,
that's not
yeah.
making your own
I
mead,
guess-
so we don't even need that fucking guy, right?
Yeah, well, what does he have that we need? That's about the only thing, really.
Yeah. Because the problem with it is that the only problem I see is that the duration of the effect, right? Like it's not a short duration effect. So people might need like kind of a safe spot to do it. I don't know if we could build like a teepee or something out there and just like,
You're talking about having therapy sessions.
yeah, but I don't know if I want to really get into babysitting everybody in Apocalypse.
What
Right.
if we
I mean,
what if we go to some
I
military
like people as it
personnel
is, let
and
alone
their
when the shit
army
hits the fan.
or something? That would be cool.
to do what, bud?
No, I was saying, why don't we, dose some military personnel who are probably cruising around and get some firearms and some ammunition.
That would
Well,
be-
I wouldn't
And
probably
meds and-
dose.
and comms and whatever else they got on them.
I probably wouldn't dose them with like psychedelics. That'd probably be a bad idea. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't want them to be.
Abilities, wouldn't it? Yeah.
I don't
Remember
want
what
them to be
happened when the Vikings took mushrooms, okay?
Yeah, I'm sitting here like I don't really want their like reflexes to be sharper.
I didn't take that out too well. Sorry, my bad.
and notice patterns. I really don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah, the Vikings never took mushrooms to trade.
Yeah. All right, what's the trade value on them? All right, they're not an analgesic, so we can't just use them to do surgery because a surgery on psychedelic mushrooms would probably be the living embodiment of hell, right?
right.
Like you're going to feel everything 3,000 times more. So really, they're only a recreational type thing.
Recreation,
Well, no,
possibly
they're
a depression.
recreational. But if we're growing those kind of mushrooms, doesn't mean that we can't be growing lion's mane and reishi because what we need to grow those is far more accessible than what is used for,
Psychedelic.
for magic fruit. I mean,
Right.
so basically you're doing that all together, and you put together teas and stuff, and they are tinctures that help people with, depression and sleep. That is medicine.
Yeah, you'd
There's
almost feel like an apothecary.
Yeah.
I know that you can repasteurize your active grow medium and then very successfully grow your medicinals and your gourmet on that substrate. because they're a secondary composter.
Oh.
Right.
Whereas like your actives are a primary composter and your medicinals are a secondary composter. They wait for something to be wrong with the tree or something, to start already be broken down before they colonize.
Oh, shit. I learned something today.
See, we could reuse all of our substrate. We just re-inoculate it with like pink oysters or something because that shit's like glitter. It gets everywhere once you let it out.
Oh,
Right.
You open up your tent and there's clouds of spores in there. It's horrible.
Yeah.
And
they're pink and they're everywhere.
I had a wooden chair in my grow tent holding my my tub for my humidifier. I didn't think about it. I went in there one day and I looked at the back of the chair and there were oysters growing out of the wooden chair. It was crazy.
I'm sorry, that's hilarious. I just found a cardboard box that I had a bunch of like cut and grow bags in that I'd forgotten about in the other room, in the storage room. And I was like, hey, it smells kind of like mushrooms. I was like, oh, fuck. And so I went over to the cardboard box and I had these beautiful trumpets. It grew through the filter patch out over the top of the freaking box and out. And it's like 12% fucking humidity, right? Like there's so little humidity in there. And they're just fine. They just grew. They're big, like fist-sized trumpet mushrooms. I was impressed. Right. So we traded off our stuff, and now how are you going to do something like pheno hunting or how would you go about? You're going to use your still airbox again to make more spore prints, or are you going to try to find your best one and go to a liquid culture again, like you would or clone it again with
the best bet is to go ahead and find your best fruit that you want, or not even the best one. I think for our purposes, you'd be needing to go for clusters because you want to make sure that you're getting full canopies. Yeah, so if you're taking tissue samples from a cluster, and then I would put that right to grain.
And is that how the regular, average, everyday person goes and tries to look for canopies? Is by cloning clusters that they're growing, right? Not just clusters that they got from across the United States or somebody else's culture, because their growing conditions might be different where they're at. Does that make sense?
Whatever you want whatever works best for your setup. You want to do your clusters from that because you're going to be doing you're going to be doing your game every Sunday. You don't do theirs. Their bag, the mixture could be different. The humidity is different. So the best fruit in that bag is going to be completely different than the fruit in Trim's bag. It's going to be brown, not green. It's going to be, but you want to make
tell
sure
the difference.
Like a grayish tint.
Sure, you would also want to do your due diligence, and you definitely would want to collect some spores as well.
Oh, absolutely. From local fruits that are acclimated to your environment. Yep.
Correct. And once you continue to collect spores from the clusters you grow from the previous spores, after a little bit, you're going to have something that's stabilized, and you can put that away. And if you happen to lose, we get a heat wave or it freezes and snows in our temperate climate out of some weird shit because the world's different now, whatever.
Yeah. And on our first run to the supply station, we're grabbing all the duct tape and aluminum foil we can get our hands on.
Okay, what for? What are you making?
Well, duct tape's good for everything.
You can make anything.
Yeah.
But aluminum foil
is going to make a new world order with that duct tape.
But the aluminum foil is just really handy. It's good for making spore prints. It's good for sealing things in a pinch. It conforms to whatever you put it on. It's just really handy stuff, and it would be hard to get later on.
I see a lot of people making spore prints on paper, and it irks the shit out of me.
You know what, though? It works, but it's not a long-term thing because if that gets any kind of moisture on it whatsoever, it'll eat the damn paper.
Yeah. But it's not going to get very far.
Right, yeah.
It just eats the paper and dies.
I mean, I'm trying not to get into that new show, but The one we all know what show I'm talking about,
Yeah.
right?
The Last of Us. We can talk about it. Everybody fucking loves that show.
The smart prepper guy. The first thing he did once he got rid of everybody in the town, he went and collected supplies. He went all through his town and he collected everything he could. That's brilliant, right there.
In this situation, I mean, not everybody's died. There's no major plague.
Right.
The only reason they're dying is because they've run out of medicine, or they've died in a looting situation or a riot.
Right. There's going to be riots, though, if that happens, because people cannot survive. They're going to be hungry in a hurry.
3 days, buddy. You only got 3 days worth of supplies at your average store. It's bad. But all right, so we've traded, and we're now trying to pheno hunt our best mushroom. How many generations do you think it takes the average person who's growing out to grow something that is adapted to their specific environment?
Well, you know what you could do if you had jars, like we would have tons of jars. If you went ahead and you get one jar, it's going to be from a spore print. It's what we used to do back in the day. You go ahead and you start one jar. Now that jar grows out. It's kind of like what I did with you guys with Monstrosity. You get one jar of multispores. Now, once that's colonized, you do break and shake, but now you split it up into a few more jars. Now you're separating different not strains, but different phenoms in each jar. You're going to have multiple different cultures. Whichever jar grows best, that's the strongest one, usually. So you would take that one, and now that one in the 4. It's kind of like taking out wedges off a plate, but caveman style. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's what I did back in the day, and my Ecuador was it was a full canopy every time. 3 times.
What's our average listener going to be able to do in order to pheno hunt on their own, even if it isn't shit hit the fan? Are they going to be able to do something similar to that, or are they going to just grow out and look for the clusters, look for the biggest fruit, look for the fastest growing fruit or the fastest to colonize? What makes something worth saving in your eyes?
You know what? The speed is obviously, important, but size matters. I don't care what anybody says. All right, guys? Size matters.
You're a size queen.
But it also, whenever you have, the looks. I mean, honestly, we only give a shit about the looks. I'm a fucking crazy person. I know you guys are too. I want something that looks like a turned out fucking prostitute on fucking Main Street after a gangbang. That's the kind of mushroom that I want to see. I want some kind of nasty, destructive fucking force of nature.
Size of a baby's arm. Yep.
Right. I just want something so fucked up. It's beautiful. That's what I look for.
And that's really fun in a normal environment, but if we're apocalypsing everything, we're going to want to just go for the most productive, right?
You're going to want speed and size and speed.
All right. Are we going to try to? How would you store those fruits long term? Like, because you're not going to have everybody's not going to want to, do your mushrooms like every day, right? So you're going to have to store some of them. How would you store them with limited space? Are you going to try to make like blue honey? Are you going to try to store them in jars? How are you going to make a desiccant? That kind of stuff.
Shit, well, desiccant, we can just make that by throwing some Epsom salt if we have any of that. On a fire, 450 degrees for 5 hours. That'll turn Epsom salt into a fucking perfect desiccant, immediately. Oh yeah, if you don't, if you throw that in the oven, it'll take all the moisture out. It'll turn it into one big, huge brick. And while it's still hot, you need to put it into an airtight compartment. Because as soon as you open up and it's exposed to any moisture in the air, It sucks it out. Matter of fact, back in the day, that was how I did my dries. Is I would go ahead and use pressure cooker. I would throw desiccant on the bottom, and then I would take one of those paper plate the things that they put the paper plates in, like the frames, the plastic holders.
Yeah.
Upside down on top of that inside of the pressure cooker. And then I would just fill it with all the fruit. Close the pressure cooker. So everything in that pressure cooker, all the moisture gets absorbed. It's kind of like when you put a piece of bread in with cookies.
Yeah.
Bread gets really hard and all the cookies. Yeah.
Yeah, you can even do that on a smaller scale with Tupperware even. Chunk extra salt, fruit. That's an option.
Smart. I like it.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
MacGyver that shit.
Yeah. What would be some uses for the magic mushrooms, though, if we had an excess of them? Like, besides just, like, hey, here, eat this. It's a great pickup line.
Micro dosing to help with all the stress of the situation people will be in.
Could I put something in your mouth?
Yeah.
But
surprise.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, microdosing in a shit hit the fan type scenario, that could be quite useful. You get, especially a person on guard duty, you get somebody who's way alert and looking for patterns, and everything is shiny and bright. As long as you don't give them like a moderate dose and they just stare at the fucking sun and hear bluebirds that aren't there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Like watch passing clouds and looking for fucking Jesus in them. They're gonna be fine. But microdosing would probably be pretty helpful, especially you've got depression issues.
That's definitely going to be a problem.
You think it would be? What is it? The percentage? Almost 48% of Americans are on some sort of antidepressant.
I think it's more than that, honestly.
Yeah.
That was the last statistic that I read, but I think the study was like a 2012. But let's just say a huge portion of people are on some sort of SSRI, the serotonin selective reuptake inhibitors. And those are what they call also trip killers. You don't want to take SSRIs and mushrooms because they just inhibit the ability of the dopamine to reach your brain cells. So do you think it would be possible to take some of those? Like, say, if you had like a really depressed significant other that you loved and didn't want to just trade up for, that you... my wife's going to punch me in the face. That if you had one and you think it would be possible to come up with a regimen using your Apocalypse Diaper Tech mushrooms to keep that person sane and steady?
Absolutely.
I know that. I know that works.
I know for a fact that it works. They already keep me sane and steady.
Yeah. And I'm
not quite sane, but I'm definitely steady.
Yeah. You're also setting yourself up for being like the local. You remember, like the old timey, the barber used to be the guy who would also prescribe all the meds and everything, right?
I think
and also pull out your teeth.
The bloodletting.
I think they call them the apothecary or something.
Yeah, so we're setting ourselves up to be the apothecary. I know that mushrooms have been used to treat, the magic kind have been used to treat cluster headaches, migraines, that kind of stuff extremely successfully.
Right.
And they're actually doing studies on turning just like out a psilocybin-based treatment in a pill form for
They've
that.
actually crystallized it.
I actually have a good buddy of mine that I work with, and I've been talking to him for years. He suffers from cluster headaches. Like, he actually misses a lot of work from it and shit. I mean, it sucks, man. I've seen him going through it, dude. But anyway, I was telling him, I was like, look, man, there's some stuff going on. Like, psilocybin is a known preventative. It's finally starting to be acknowledged. And he's like, oh, I don't know. He's in his 60s, and he ain't really partied since the 80s, I guess, or whatever it is. Anyway, he hasn't had cluster headaches in like a year and a half. He finally was like, hey, well, I finally, I watched that thing you sent me, and blah blah blah, and I was talking to the wife, and she said that maybe that would be a viable thing, and I helped him out and blessed him with some stuff, and it's he hasn't had a cluster headache in a long time. I mean, now that's not 100% effective. It really isn't. It only works in, I believe, about 80% of people from last study that I saw on it. But
That's a huge percentage, though.
That's
right,
4 out of
right.
5 people.
And the treatments before that were like an oxygen tank, and they're like, good luck,
Yeah, well, they'd use things like Keppra and other anti-seizure medications for that, and those would have 35 fucking percent or 40% effective, and they just shoot somebody up with a shitload of Toradol, which is like a non-opioid anti-inflammatory. It's like a really powerful Motrin, and put them in a dark place, give them some freaking oxygen, maybe give them an anti-seizure medicine, and go, best of luck, buddy. And now they're looking at using the psilocybin as a kind of emergent first line medication to stop the cluster headaches.
Right. I mean, isn't that that's totally amazing, and it blows my mind, And I find it funny because this was, talked about a lot years and years ago in our community, if you will, and but it wasn't really acknowledged by mainstream science till recently, and I think that's just amazing,
It sometimes takes them a while to catch up.
Oh, for sure. I mean, the war on drugs and the unfortunate misscheduling of so much shit, And
Well, listen, the biggest problem is big pharma. The only way that it's ever going to be legalized, like to the point where it's all over the place, is when big pharma gets involved. Nobody wants that to happen, but the only people that are lobbying and giving money to the people that could actually make those decisions is big pharma.
Well, big pharma is the people that are paying for all the research being done. So unfortunately, they get granted the patents on shit, like
exactly
all the psilocybin tests that they've been doing, all the clinical trials and shit. It's not with fruit bodies; it's with lab-made synthetic psilocybin only. No baocystin, none of that shit. And so you better bet your ass 100% that if it ever goes federal, what is going to be federally legal is going to be synthetic psilocybin as the medication. That's what's going to be accepted, and it's because that's what they can have a patent on, and they can make all their money back. And then
well, listen, I see it like this. I mean, getting it in the door is going to be through big pharma now, but also I think it's just following the same route that cannabis did. Now we know the route that we need to take. Hopefully it'll go a lot smoother than cannabis. You won't have all those early raids on early stores, but I don't know. It's
you don't really see people being able to trip daily.
You can't. You literally can't do that.
You grow way, way too fast of a resistance to it.
The tolerance, I believe, it doubles every day. So you take, say you took 5, by the end of the week, you're eating a wheelbarrow.
Sure. Yep.
Yeah. But at a clinical level, the small doses of it, like micro doses and stuff like that, do have the effect, but they don't have the like auditory and hallucinatory effects.
As long as you stay under that level, you can do it 5 days in a row. You can do it even longer than that. The problem is the receptors, they also need a break. So I believe, I mean, it changes all the time. In the beginning, it used to be 1 day on, 1 day off. And then I've heard some where I did it for 2 weeks and I took a week off. Now it's pretty much, I do it during the week and I take off on the weekends.
So I'll be honest.
Whatever works for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I'll be honest with you. Currently, I mean, because I've tried both protocols that are mostly well known, the Fadiman and the Stamets protocols or whatever, and one's one every third day, and the other one's 5 days in a row, 2 days off. The one has a stack with like nice. Anyway, that's here nor there. Where I'm currently at and where I found myself is because it's not something I have to take constantly. It's not some methadone, if you will. You get off heroin or opiates, and hey, we're gonna just keep dosing you this methadone. It's not something that you have to continually do. So I frequently take month breaks, and after this last one, I only take it. I take it intermittently. I'll take it for a couple days, and it's to the point where I stop, and then I wait till I start getting triggers. I was talking. I do.
So it's kind of like a refresher for you.
Correct. And I just listen to myself. I'm able to be a little bit more self-aware that, hey, I'm being triggered in maybe a manic episode where I'm going to be staying up really late and, I get really obsessive about shit and, it throws me whack. And the counter of that is, I get really depressed and I don't want to get up, when I crash from that. And so when I start to see those behavioral patterns, which they're nowhere near as severe as they used to be when I was unmedicated or not taking, microdoses, right? So my peaks and valleys are way less severe, but when I start noticing them happening, it's like, oh, maybe I need to go on a little regimen. I'll take them for a couple weeks, and then but I notice it really dissipates fairly quickly. So that's my experience.
I mean, they're small. The small doses, they make permanent change.
Absolutely, they do. But I think there's a lot to it to be able to kind of barometer oneself, because I don't think it's almost like there was a discussion. I think it might have been in our Discord recently about recipes, or maybe it was maybe Farrell, you were talking about it on Geeky's podcast or something. But about recipes, everyone wants to stick to this specific recipe, and it's like I think with this, it's not a traditional medicine that has to be prescribed. No, you got to take this 3 times a day, because no, take it when you feel like you need it. When I first started microdosing, I was very regimented about it. I would do 2 months on, a month off, 2 months on, a month off. And then I tried it for like 6 months straight doing the other, and I find now that if I just listen to myself and I'm able to acknowledge and I'm aware of like how I'm feeling and actually acknowledging those, hey, and it gives me the ability to do something about it without being abusive or stuck to a habitual habit of taking it, if that makes sense.
Right. That's also the good thing about the fruit is it's hard to that you can't be habitual. There's no,
Yeah, if you overdo it, it stops you itself. That's for sure.
There's never been an overdose on psilocybin. There was one, did they call that in like Europe, the UK, where they went ahead and they took magic mushrooms and then they went swimming in the fucking loch, so they drowned. So they blamed it on, not that
it's probably not the best to do physical activities on a freaking shitload of mushrooms.
Well, yeah.
Right. But that's pretty much anything.
Yeah, don't operate heavy machinery. Don't go out driving on the Autobahn.
Hold on, wait a minute. I gotta share this. The wife and I, some friends of mine from high school, went up to Georgia last July, right? We went up to the Blue Ridge Mountains up by Tennessee or stuff, that northern border of Georgia. It was phenomenal. Now, I've never driven in mountains before, okay? So I was a little intimidated at first. The first day when we're driving up to the cabin at the very top of one of these mountains. And so the next day, I actually brought a bunch of little, they were kind of like mini doses, I guess you will. I had capsuled up. And so I brought a bunch with us, and we were doing this cool forestry trail through the mountains to this awesome clear lake. It was an awesome little thing. It was an hour and a half drive, but up and down through these mountains and these forestry trails, and I'm sitting in my little Tacoma, and I ate some on the start of the drive, and sure as shit, my confidence really picked up. And talk about hauling ass and hitting e-brake on the side of a mountain. You look to your right, it's up mountain. You look to your left, it's like straight down. And you're fishtailing it down. It it was really bad and probably not a good idea, but I had a fucking blast, I gotta say. So
Yeah,
I
but
just
you might be a little bit overconfident, buddy. Little like I got this, and the next thing you know, I mean, it's a hold my beer, watch this moment. Right? Like I wouldn't personally.
Oh, and I just want to say disclaimer: no one on this podcast or myself is encouraging or saying that is a wise idea or anyone should do that. I was just sharing.
But you lived.
I did. That was really awesome, and I gotta say, that was some beautiful stuff. Being in those mountains, man, there was some magical things going on. So
fantastic. Do you think we've pretty much covered apocalyptic type scenarios, or do you guys got anything else you want to add to this?
Well, we took care of the still air box, the substrate. We got trim solar drying. Brought the good shit with the car. We got some oven tech. Trading guns.
You
fun.
guys ever used a plastic garbage bag as a still air box? I have.
Oh yeah, I've done that with contaminated stuff.
Yeah, I've used a clear garbage bag, but I used a torch, kind of like to fill it up like a hot air balloon.
Right.
And then
nice.
zip tied. I put all my stuff in there, and then zip tied it closed, and I pushed in through the outside of the bag to use it like a still air box. It worked phenomenally well, like really, really, really well. But I just put sketchy shit in there, like, hey, this looks a little weird. I also did it once. I was in Dallas, and I was at this like kind of, well, it was a reptile convention, like for people trading snakes and shit.
Ball pythons, yes.
Yeah. And I happen to know a few of the people that were also into mushrooms, and so they brought petri dishes, and I brought petri dishes, and we kind of traded stuff. So we needed to have somewhere to make a the trade, and so we went and we took the liner out of the trash can, and the bottom of the trash can was another liner, because that's just how they do it.
For backups.
Yeah. So I took the one that was new and inflated it with just stupid little propane torch. I think it was used for lighting like cigarettes or bongs or whatever. And just like a little hot air balloon, tied it up, zip tied it. And then we just did everything right there in like the Holiday Inn, just right there on the little table next to the Bible. Just did everybody's little transfers. Everything was great, and it worked out great. We had 0% problems, no infections, anything like that. So it works out really well. Like just a trash can liner as a still air box. As long as you fill it up with clean air, and that's why I was using the torch. I didn't close the trash bag and use a torch to inflate it. That would be a bad idea. You're going to make it explosive. But what I did was hold the trash bag open and hold the torch underneath it, and it just inflated it like a hot air balloon.
Nice.
It worked really, really well. Like it's something that I would totally do again on the road.
Uh-huh.
That's super.
Looking for some questions here on the Discord. By the way, did we ever tell anybody about the Discord?
I'm not an adult. I mean,
no.
Okay, guys.
Cool, guys.
Join us on the FAFO cult on. Look for us on Discord. You can also always give us a tip or so on our Venmo. It's FAFO cult. It's at FAFO cult. One word. On Venmo, if you want to throw $1 our way, we very much appreciate it. We'll use it for nothing good. Promise to not do anything legal with it. Well, I mean, it'll probably just go to be paying for keeping this podcast on the air.
Or cocaine and hookers.
Yeah, or cocaine and blow.
And ice cream.
And ice cream, yes. Definitely need to have the ice cream.
But
anybody else got anything else to add to this?
Well, hold on. That's what I was saying. We got the Discord. So now we have something on there. If you guys have any questions that you want us to answer, I'm going through here right now. When we were talking, we pretty much took care of most of the questions in our little apocalypse shit today. But I mean, we got the somebody asked us if rabbit shit or other small household, animal treats were good for substrate.
Yes.
Let's see.
Rabbit poo is amazing. And their whole litter box is amazing. Rabbits tend to only poo in one corner.
I see a question on there also is, what kind of things should I avoid using in a substrate mix?
Okay, so when it comes to a substrate mix, some of the stuff you're going to want to avoid using is going to be anything high in salts. So anything that's like really high in like urine. Urine is a lot of different salts put away. Like peat, like if the horse peed on the substrate, stuff like that, you kind of want to avoid that. And you'll be able to tell by the poo if it forms that white bloom on the outside of it, that if it's older, that tells you that's high in salts.
Salt crystals.
Yeah, salt crystals. So those high in salts are pretty toxic to things. Bacteria and fungi without rinsing them off first. But rinsing poo generally turns it into slush, and it just doesn't work very well. You can dilute it by adding that to more substrate. But you also want to avoid using substrate in places, like if you're going to go out into your backyard and just wildcraft some substrate, you want to make sure that the city hasn't sprayed for mosquitoes. You want to make sure that nobody's came along and sprayed that area with weed killer, anything like that. Fertilizer, not a big deal. It just makes stronger, bigger weeds. But you can pretty much use almost any weed that you can find in your backyard as a substrate. The broader the leaf, the weed, the more moisture it's going to hold on to. Think like boiling spinach, and it becomes like this big gelatinous mass, versus like boiling straw or something, and it keeps its individual pieces. So you can just use some garden dirt and some amendments, and as long as you keep it to where air can flow through it by using your straw, your rabbit poo, your guinea pig poo, anything like that, you're going to be okay.
Nice.
There's so much stuff. There's such, as far as substrate goes, there's such a huge margin of error. And that's why I try to encourage people to fuck around and find out. And it's the name of the podcast. And there's so much stuff you can grow on that is beyond just CVG.
Right. And along those same lines, we also had a question in the Discord is, do different grains or substrate change the way a mushroom looks?
No.
Okay. It depends. And that
it's not talking about the water and stuff like that. And I don't think so.
I think that I can grow golden teachers on a nutritional rich substrate and then grow the same golden teachers on a CVG, and they're going to look different. They're going to be different in size and maybe different in slightly color, and they're going to be different in potency. And that's just because the more nutrients they have, they're going to make bigger caps, and they're going to be darker.
What about density of the fruit body?
That's more temperature, I think.
Yeah, I think the density of the fruit body is temperature and water content, because they inflate. Your little pin, has as much actual tissue in it as the entire mushroom.
The number of cells, you mean?
Yeah, well, the number of cells in it. They just inflate like a balloon.
Well, let me ask you this, right? So I was listening somewhere, I think it might have been Home Mycology or something, one of his, rants or whatever. But he had mentioned something about adding calcium hydroxide, with that lime or whatever, to your substrate, and it causes your stipes to become incredibly dense versus like incredibly hollow,
that's just calcium.
Growing that in that tub picture I posted earlier. That's what that substrate's got in it. I put some of that in there. So we'll see. I wanted to try that out myself because I personally enjoy denser stipes.
So let me drop another one of my little secrets. on here. So people have made it this long. Here's one of my little secrets that I do to get really dense fruits is I go to the reptile part of the store and I buy what's called cricket dust.
For gut loading them. Yep.
Yeah, it's for gut loading your crickets. It's got calcium in it, but it's a biologically available version of calcium, and it's got vitamin D3, and it's got everything necessary for any sort of biological life to process the calcium and make the calcium biologically available. Also, sometimes I'll use Tums, guys. Like crush up some Tums and throw it in there.
Tums.
Yeah, it's good. Tums is the only downside of it is
they are not a
Tums
sponsor.
Yeah, and not a sponsor. But Tums, if you want to sponsor us, reach out, buddy. Reach out.
And Harbor Freight. And Harbor Freight, remember?
And Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight, we will sell some shit for you. Yeah. But it's not going to be for the intended use, but by God, we'll sell some shit for you. So, so the cricket dust, man, it comes with a little tiny scoop. And the scoop is probably like a 30th of a freaking tablespoon, right? Little tiny scoop.
You're talking like rep shit and stuff, right?
Yeah, for you sprinkle it on crickets before you feed them to frogs and lizards and stuff.
I think it's actually Reptisure brand. I think that's literally the brand I use, Reptisure.
Wait, you guys are talking about the shit you put in the bag and you shake the shit out of the cricket so it covers them?
Yeah.
So when the animals eat them, they get that with that?
That's literally it.
It's vitamins for reptiles.
Well, I mean, it makes perfect sense. Like when I was bearding my beard, I used to breed bearded dragons, and one of the big things when you get a gravid female, you have to like supplement the shit out of their calcium because they expel so much producing the eggs. So you have to
take it from their bones.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, absolutely, exactly. So that, I mean, and again, that's fucking genius.
Yeah,
I mean, it makes perfect fucking sense. Like, duh, why didn't I think of it?
But I buy the cheap shit on Amazon.
Okay.
In bulk, and it comes in like an 8-ounce container. An 8-ounce container lasts a long fucking time. I use one.
So say, how much of that are you putting in a bag?
1 scoop per bag. The scoop's like a 30th. Yeah, the scoop is a little tiny fucking scoop. Like it's like a bump of cocaine scoop. Like it's a little bit. Wait,
like a fingernail full. A cocaine fingernail full.
Yes. So for everybody out there who is not familiar with a very small little scoop, it's a bump's worth. Okay.
And
it's a little bitty bit. But I add it to my substrate instead of to my grains. And it's got vitamin D3 and available like a biologically available way, and calcium. But it's got not just regular calcium, it's biologically available calcium, but it also has like a bunch of little micronutrients. I find that when the bags that I add that to, they are denser, they are larger. You don't get the hollow stems and stuff with it.
Right. That's fantastic information. I mean, obviously, I'm going to keep you all updated on how it went with the calcium hydroxide that I put in there. So, I mean, as you can see from the mic, though, I mean, that was 4 days, and I had at least a half-inch pseudo casing on it. I just used, plain substrate over the top of it, but I mean, it's tearing through it.
Good deal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's got.
I mean, those crazy pictures.
And I put erythritol in there. There's
nice.
There's a whole bunch of shit in there. Worm poo.
Talk dirty to me, boy. Talk dirty to me. Yeah, I love amended substrates. I'm a huge fan of them. Love it when you're hearing other people putting stuff in their substrate, because they're going to be so much more successful. As far as not just is it going to fruit, right? Because if you just want to make fruit, CVG is the way to go. It's fail-proof. It's great. But if you're going to want to make something interesting out of your fruit, then doing a amended substrate is the way to go. I firmly believe that. I'll preach that shit like it's a religion. But I've seen some.
It almost is at this point.
Yeah.
So short answer is substrate does have some effect on the way a fruit looks. And I can vouch for that we'll say it was on purpose, but it might have been an accident.
Yes,
I accidentally.
it's just
sorta,
the same
kinda.
thing as growing a flower.
Right. I accidentally inoculated a wood lover's block with cubes before, and it did fruit, but they were weird looking.
Well,
They
was
were
it
just a little confused.
was it the amended?
They were.
Was it the amended wood lovers blocks
Yes, it
that
was.
like we make with the alfalfa and everything?
Yes, it was.
That's because the alfalfa
weird.
has the nitrogen and the calcium and everything else necessary.
Yeah, the fruits came out. I only got like 4 fruits off the entire block, and they were so dense you could almost not break them. I mean, they were almost like sticks of wood coming out. It was crazy.
So, how much did you lose on the one that you dried them out?
Not much. They almost stayed the same size. They were
So
interesting.
basically, because the environment you were growing them in was not suitable, it's basically like doing truffle tech. So were they like bound up in like huge balls and shit?
Yeah, they didn't even really form caps or anything. They were just like
So
penises
they were
sticking
basically sclerotia on top of your block.
up. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Good old
I like
scrotums.
it. I bet you
Nice.
could grow truffles, shit hit the fan, pretty easily, just off of harvesting the grass seed, which is not hard to do. All you got to do is have just like a bucket that you put a sawzall blade on and just swing the son of a bitch back and forth at waist height, and it's just going to scrape off. It won't cut the seed heads, but it'll scrape off all the stuff into the bucket.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
In a
That's what
survival
you need
situation,
little fucking slave labor for, dude, little kitties.
in
Yeah,
a survival
okay,
situation or like that, mowing yards is going to be the last thing people think about.
Yeah, well, you got to turn it into animal feed, man. There's so much better ways for the grass to work than,
You're better off
mowing
giving
it.
it to a rabbit who's going to give you a bag of substrate every day.
Yeah. Rabbits are great. All right, gentlemen, let's tie this particular one up.
Alrighty.
Anybody got some positive things to say today?
Never.
Ooh, I got lots of positive things. All
Let's
right.
hear one.
Wow.
To all you listeners out there, listen. I love you all. If you're going through it, just know that it'll pass and it'll get better. And, get your mycology on, and much love to you all. Yeah.
Beautiful, sir. Beautiful.
Very nice.
Amen, brother.
All right, guys. Well, we love and appreciate each and every one of you. If you're going through something, like you said, you can always join our Discord and we can all talk about it. You've always got somebody to reach out to here. We can always get a hold of us. Suicide is never an option. It hurts everybody around you, not just yourself. We love you. Take care, guys, and we'll see you next time.
Later.